Okay, I want to welcome everyone to the Beatley Central Library, the Alexandria Library System tonight. We are very, very lucky to have Brendan Slocumb, who is the author of 2 books now. His first book, The Violin Conspiracy, he wrote in 2022, I believe, or it's published in 2022. He wrote it, from my understanding, from a program he did earlier for the library. He wrote it during the pandemic. And he came here and did a presentation for it there, and now he has shown that it's not just a global pandemic that can get him on the desk writing. He has shown that he can actually put together another very fine novel. I've just finished it today, The Symphony of Secrets. It came out just this year, and we're very fortunate to have him here this evening. So why don't you give a big hand and welcome to Brendan Slocumb. All right, Brendan, I just finished this book, and I loved it. I really did. I loved it. It was compelling. I started it yesterday afternoon at about 3 o'clock,
Wow.
And I finished it today at about 3 o'clock. That included getting up at 4 a.m. this morning, and it really it's a very compelling narrative and a very compelling story.
Can we give a hand for finishing it in like a day?
And I do. Let's start off. Why don't you just give a basic synopsis, like all but the details, and so that and if you really want to know what happens, buy the book.
Symphony of Secrets. Well, first, thank you guys so much for coming. I really, really, really appreciate it. I'm so happy to see familiar faces. That's awesome. Current students, former students, friends. Thank you guys. This is awesome. What is today? Friday? Is it? Oh. Just kidding. What was the question?
Well,
the story, right. Symphony of Secrets takes place in 2 time periods, the present and 1920s New York. In the past, America's soon-to-be greatest composer, Frederick Delaney, meets a very inspirational, I'll say, young woman named Josephine Reed. And their relationship will have ramifications that carry out through the 21st century. And in the present, Professor Bern Hendricks is tasked, he's a musicologist who is tasked with authenticating the long-lost score to the opera Red from the Rings of Olympia. And this opera, 100 years ago, was supposed to be the greatest opera ever written, ever. And it just disappeared. And it's been discovered, and he gets tasked with authenticating it. And he has a tech-savvy friend named Ebony who helps him decipher the music. And during their research, they discover that this guy may not have written any of his own music, and the powers that be will stop at nothing to keep that a secret.
and that's kind of where I want to start tonight. Now, Frederick Delaney, he goes through many incarnations of his name. He goes through Freddie, Fred, Frederick, and he's lots of different characters. We begin the novel in the very first opening. We see him. He is getting ready to go on to what we are told is his final performance, or his final performance of one of his works. I put in quotes. So, who were you thinking of when you thought about Frederick Delaney?
Well, I wanted something that was uniquely American, and I thought that, I know jazz is America's truest art form, and in the 1920s, jazz was having a huge surgence, and Freddie is a bright-eyed, young, go-getter composer. I think he is one of those people that everyone likes, for whatever reason. He's just a nice guy. And when I thought of composers to model him after, I really couldn't find just one. Everyone that I know who is bright-eyed and optimistic, I wanted them to be reflected in Freddie. In terms of his work ethic, I totally saw George Gershwin for a very specific reason. Gershwin, those of you know George Gershwin, you've heard his music. You guys know that song, I got rhythm, I got whatever the words are. You know that song? Okay, so George Gershwin, you know, he's famous for that piece. It actually was not, he stole that. Yes, he did. William Grant Still is a composer, a black composer, who used to play oboe in a pit orchestra, and his first symphony, the third movement, hey, more students. His first symphony, the third movement, note for note, da 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 da, and it's like, who wrote it first? Was it Gershwin or was it Still? So the concept of stealing / borrowing music has been around for a long, long time, and you know, Freddie was no exception.
Yeah, and you talk about that in your author's note at the end, which I highly recommend reading after you finish the book. So yes, we do find out that he's got a very complex character. He's not, in the very beginning we find out he's not really that good.
Right.
But he runs into one of the people in the audience when he's really not that good, and they're getting ready to just kick him out of the band he just formed. Her name is Josephine Reed, and she's sitting there and listening, and she's just speaking almost what seems like nonsense. Mm-hmm. Could you talk about Josephine for a bit? I mean, you know, and what her condition is, and how you built that into the development of her character.
Absolutely. Josephine Reed is a very special character to me. In the story, she is a black woman who lives with a neurodivergent condition. Her condition is autism, and she also suffers from synesthesia. Does anyone know what synesthesia is? Yeah. Basically, synesthesia is like a sensory overload condition. If you hear a note, you would see a color. If I hear an F sharp, oh, that's green. If I hear an A, oh, that's purple. Some people even experience synesthesia. They will taste something when they hear a specific tone. And everything around her, everything she hears and experiences, these colors and sensation, every single thing. If you're stepping, you know, each step has a tone and she's hearing it. And the best way for her to cope with this sensory overload is for her to write down what it is that she hears. And she uses a very specific form of annotations called doodles. And Josephine, living with autism, you know, autism really wasn't diagnosed as autism until the mid 20th century. So people just kind of called her crazy. She was living on the streets, sneaking into clubs, but she was very, very musically astute. And she sees things and she hears things and she expresses herself in odd ways. When Freddie, in the one chapter where Freddie first meets Josephine, he's playing something and she says, no, it's the teal is perfect, but the beige comes in when you come in, and that's not right. So, you know, it's like, okay, what is she talking about? But it makes perfect sense to her. So she's got like 3 strikes going against her. She's a woman, she's black, and she's got a neurodivergent condition. So when she meets Freddie, it's, I don't want to give too much away, but their relationship sparks, and it's very consequential.
Yeah, and I really like how you draw people in, because you think, oh wow, this is a very interesting relationship between this Freddie Delaney and Josephine, and you think, oh wow, there must be something really kind of controversial, or you know, so you really do, and it's a compelling part of the narrative, and it does draw you in, and I really enjoyed that part of it. I want to talk now a little bit about, because I'm trying to, you know, when I read the book, in the one of the things that I kept seeing were there are a lot of parallels. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of parallels to what is going on in today's news, especially when you look at something like the Delaney Foundation. Now, the Delaney Foundation was begun as in, they are kind of like the keepers of the kingdom of the Frederick Delaney's work. Could you talk about the Delaney Foundation and how it plays a significant role in this in your development of the story?
Sure. The Delaney Foundation is basically a foundation that helps everyone. If you are breathing, you have heard of the Delaney Foundation, not only in America, but across the world. It's basically synonymous with Walt Disney. You hear Delaney, you think college scholarships, instrument help, anything musically oriented or arts oriented, it's going to come from the Delaney Foundation. They will support it, and they support students. And one of the protagonists, Byrne, basically owes his existence to the Delaney Foundation, which is why he's dedicated his life to the study of Frederick Delaney, because when he was a kid, he got his first instrument through the Delaney Foundation, and they sent him to college, and he got his PhD to study Frederick Delaney. And this is not just synonymous with the protagonist Byrne, it's everyone across the world. Delaney has touched everyone in some small way. Delaney's reach is very far and very vast in a very benevolent way. So we think.
I know, and one of the things that I thought was very interesting, I kind of looked at the parallel. I thought, wow, this is like they're holding on to really the mythology. Everything that as we grow up, and Byrne, the character which I want to talk about in a minute, but Byrne, who's benefited greatly from the Delaney Foundation, is he's going to be working with them, but they are part of the magic which brought him to where he is today. Mm-hmm. And how significant do you think? I'm just curious if you see parallels between what the mythology that the Delaney Foundation had and what they were holding on to, or do you feel like, talk about your skepticism of institutions.
My skepticism of
you're the author.
Oh yeah, that's true. I think it's something that's very relatable. On the surface, everything, these major corporations, on the surface, they're fantastic. They do so much good. We see the good that they do. But the inner workings, it's like a sausage factory. You like to eat it, but you don't want to see how it's made. And I think in the story in particular, Byrne has the opportunity to see the inner workings and to experience it firsthand. And it's a real reckoning. He actually has to, reconcile the fact that this is not exactly what I thought it was. And how do I deal with this? Because I owe everything to these people. And at the same time, they might not be doing the right thing. So how do I deal with that? How do you deal with someone who has given you everything and they're doing bad things? How do you do that? I think that's a very real situation that, sometimes we may find ourselves in, and some of us may have found ourselves in that situation. They're doing the right thing, but doing it the wrong way.
Yeah, and I think, every institution has its good or its dark side as well as its good side. It's I don't think you completely break the Delaney Foundation in your narrative in the story, but I really in the last year, mm-hmm. we've seen a lot of different events happen in the news where people are. For instance, I'm going to take it back to the schools, because you were a teacher. Yeah. And now, and you have students here.
Current and former.
Current and former. And one of the things, which really we're facing today, we're facing this idea of an institutional mythology. Mm-hmm. And there is a real pushback in Virginia, in the last political election, there was a, big part of the campaign was, we will not teach CRT, which they weren't doing anyway, we know, but we will not teach that in the schools. But it was interesting, the CRT, or whatever you want to call it, teaching racial history, the 1619 Project, was really a significant part of our development and our history, and I found parallels in what the Delaney Foundation had to the curriculum I was raised with in the 60s, not that I'm telling my age, but did you feel that when you were writing that? Was that something you were conscious of, or something you felt like, oh yeah, This is the way it is.
It actually was not a conscious effort on my part, and I'm going to refrain from anything political. Don't want to do that because there are all types of political, we're all on the political spectrum. It's all over the place. So conservative, liberal, doesn't matter as long as you buy the book. I don't care. So I'm staying away from that. Can we clap for that one? All right. No, but I just wanted to tell a story. Everyone, I think, can relate to the big evil corporation. That's nothing new. Even just the idea of a big evil corporation that's good on the outside and really rotten on the inside. I think that's something that everyone can relate to, and I just wanted to. For me, that makes an entertaining story, so I wanted to push that. And you mentioned parallels. There are several parallels that kind of happened throughout the story that was unintentional. The use of technology was one parallel. I'm probably getting a little bit ahead of you. My apologies if so. In the 1920s, one of the most technological advancements was the phonograph. And then when Freddie used to be a song plugger, which means that he would take a piece of sheet music, learn it, go to a department store and play it and get people to buy the music. But then when the phonograph came about, well, you can hear this now. You can hear this music without me having to hire someone to play the song and go to these different stores. And in the present, Byrne was hand authenticating everything. He's looking note by note, pen stroke by pen stroke, whereas his partner Ebony could just load everything into her computer and go through all the archives of everything that was done and just do it like that. So technological parallels as well as that whole big evil corporation thing that we can all relate to. We've all seen the James Bond movies. You've seen that,
Yeah, I love Ebony. She is just, she rocks.
I've heard her described as the friend that everyone needs.
Yeah, I'm looking. No, she is great. She is worth every part of in the narrative. She's such a great character who just kind of falls into it. In fact, I think, tell me a little bit about Ebony. What is her background? How did you develop her character?
She was actually based on a friend of mine that I used to teach with in Pennsylvania. She was beautiful. She was brilliant. She was a go-getter. I mean, and underestimated because of her appearance. And I really wanted to play up that aspect of Ebony. She is from the Bronx, so she's got a heavy Bronx accent. You look at her because you just look at her and you think, there's no way that this person is as smart as she is. There's no way this person is as capable as she is, strictly based on appearance. And unfortunately, that happens. We judge books by their covers. And that's one of the big messages that I really wanted to send in this book. See people. Look past the accent, look past the attire, look past the skin color, look past the haircut, and really see people for what it is that they can do. And I think she's a prime example of why you should never, ever, ever judge someone strictly based on appearance. That's what I wanted.
And so both your characters, I think Ebony is from the Midwest, Chicago area?
No, she's from the Bronx.
She's from the Bronx, okay.
And Byrne is from
the Midwest. Yes, okay, because that's what he relates to Freddie, because Freddie's from the Midwest too, except we know that Byrne is a lot better than Freddie. So
maybe remains to be seen. I like Freddie. He's a good guy.
Yeah, there you go. Yes.
I liked him.
Yes.
You didn't like him in the beginning, seriously?
I felt there was something off. I mean, I tell you what, I didn't, I liked that he was trying to, in the very beginning, he's not quite following the measure, let's just say.
That's a good musical then, yeah. Okay.
Now, next question, yeah. And anyway, so I felt like that there was a lot trying too hard, and I just knew something was not quite right for someone who was I felt like, as he was developing, I thought, oh, well, he's going to come out of this. He's going to come out. And so, so there was some, I liked it. You teased me. You were like the fly fisherman, and and there I was. Hook, line, and sinker. I was like, oh, yeah, Freddie's not a bad guy. And I thought he was going to be, he may not be a bad guy. But. I wasn't sure. There was something just kind of off-putting about him in the very beginning. I just, I love that he took in Josephine, and I thought that was a really, I thought that was really great, and it was, and also I liked how you did the parallel stories. Talk about the parallel stories, jumping back and forth. Did you have any? Did you write them separate? Did you do those separate? Did you do them at the same time? Did you go, oh, I'm going to write this in here now?
It actually started. I started with Freddie. It was him from the very beginning, and then I incorporated Josephine. And by the way, Josephine being a neurodivergent black woman, I really wanted her to live with autism, because I've not read or seen too many stories where people living with autism were portrayed in a positive manner. So I really wanted to do that, so I incorporated her heavily for that reason. So it started with Freddie and Josephine, and then I started writing Byrne and Ebony, and then I just jumped back and forth because I'm a huge, I want to be entertained when I'm reading, and I'm like, okay, Freddie section is over. What's going to happen with Byrne? All right, page turn. Okay, what's going to happen with Freddie? And just going back and forth, and I had a lot of fun doing that. Plus, with the dual timelines, you can really develop more characters. And for me in my writing, my characters drive the story. When I first came up with Freddie, I had no idea what he was going to be like, what he was going to do. But his personality, as I began to develop him a bit more, the story came from his personality.
And I think it was interesting how you used the publishing house in the early part of the 1920s, and how the publishing houses were really significant in developing the strategy that Freddie was using to enhance his musical. How much research did you do into that, or did you just know this is how they did this?
I know a lot of stuff, but I don't know a lot about 1920s publishing. No. I had 3 monitors open: Google, Bing, and Yahoo Search.
So it was Ditmore, right? Was he
Ditmore? Yeah.
Ditmore, was he based on a real publishing house from the time? Was there a major...
Totally made it up. And his character, for those of you who are Spider-Man fanatics like myself, he was J. Jonah Jameson. That's the personality and character traits that I came up with. I'm like, I like comic books, so yeah, this guy would be perfect for that.
Yeah, I liked how Ebony threw in that Spider-Man reference. You'll have to read the book to find out where that happened.
It's really good.
Anyway, no, Ebony was great, but let's talk about back to Josephine. She was from in the Violin Conspiracy. You pulled a lot of your characters really from your family, and Josephine is from that same general area. Could you talk about how you felt like that helped develop her as a character in your mind?
I was given some really great advice. Write what you know. I am from the South. I know you can't really tell with this accent, because you remember when I was in, my students used to laugh at me because I would say stuff. We're going to start at letter N. Does anyone have a pen that I could write with? And they would laugh at me, and I totally lost the accent because it's been a while and I got tired of getting laughed at. And I got it. So, my family is all from the South. And another aspect, I was writing about people that I know. These are characters that we've all met at some point. And oftentimes, people from the South get a bad rap for being unintelligent. And I wanted to write intelligent characters from the South. Excuse me. And with the family and with Josephine, it was more than just, we've been living on a farm for however long and everybody does the same thing. No, I wanted something to show people, oh, okay, there's people from the South can be multidimensional characters as well. So that's really where that came from. And, again, like I mentioned, I really wanted people living with autism to be represented and to see themselves.
Did you know anyone when you were growing up? Did you hear stories about people like Josephine in the Great Migration who went to New York City who became...
Yes. Yes.
Oh, tell me about that.
That was, dude, how much time do we have?
We got plenty of time.
I guess. No, I'd heard the stories, and I'd done the research, but in terms of the Great Migration, the research that I had done, I was well aware that it was much more of a community back then. People would visit from other places on their way going up north, and they would stop and they would share their stories and their knowledge, and I thought that was fascinating. And in terms of Josephine wanting to go, it was really based on her personality. You know, she was experiencing all of these sounds in the country, and when a visitor came and stayed with them for a while, you know, she brought with her new things, brand new, that Josephine had never seen, and things that she wanted to hear. And I thought that that would be a really interesting way to not only develop her character, but to get her out of the South and go up to the big city. And, you know, I think it worked out great. It was a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, she was really very tragic in the beginning. She's homeless.
Yeah, totally.
She's totally homeless, and a very brave woman from the very
get-go. I don't know
get-go.
how brave it was. Maybe it was just, I don't know. I don't know if it was bravery or just insanity. I don't know. Who would people today would probably go to New York City. I'm fresh out of whatever. I'm going to go to New York and try to make it. Okay, fine. You have resources. This girl had never been out of North Carolina, didn't know a soul, and I'm just going to go to New York. I don't know how smart that was. You know, I don't know a single person. I don't have a job. I have zero money. I got one outfit. What am I going to do? It just didn't make sense. But I don't know how brave that was.
Well, one of the things I really liked in your narrative, and it was when they went to North Carolina, and actually throughout, and I'm going to go back to that in just a second, but when Ebony and Byrne go to North Carolina and meet Josephine's family, they're eating like chips with Tabasco on it? Wait, what was that they were eating?
You're right. Old Bay seasoning.
That's right, Old Bay seasoning, that's right.
Which I've never tried, by the way. So
I dug in my cabinet for Old Bay seasoning. That's what it did to me. And this brings up the other part, pizza. Yeah. I want to know your experience with pizza. There was lots of pizza in this, and I am like, where can I find pizza like you found in New York City in Alexandria?
You can't.
Well, I mean, so did you do research on pizza, or were you just...
Yes, I did personal research on pizza. Well, backtracking just a little bit, with the family, Josephine's family, that was actually based on my family. Murtis, Sandra, Kay, Judy, Peggy, those were my aunts. Okay. And Erlene was my dad's mother. That was my family. And the conversation that they had, and it kind of sucks that none of them got to read it. My Aunt Murtis is the only one that's still living. I lost my Aunt Peggy last year, and those conversations, I talked to my cousins after they read this book, and they were like, oh my gosh, you nailed it. Mom totally would have said that just like that. And these were conversations, I grew up with I love my family, and this is what I would hear, and this is how I would hear and interpret their personality. So I wanted to incorporate that not only as a tribute to my family, but everyone can relate to family. Everyone can, even if it's dysfunctional as everyone can relate to it. We all can relate to some type of family dysfunction. Not that family was totally dysfunctional, but that was a lot of fun for me to do. I love writing family stuff, and with the pizza, who can't bond over pizza? I mean, does anyone know anyone who cannot? I love pizza. I can't eat it anymore, but and if you've never had New York City pizza, you have not lived. It doesn't matter where you go. It's all good. It's delicious. And I was in New York doing some edits before I'd written the sections with them. I went back and added the pizza sections, and there was this one spot called Amore's. And I was like, yeah, I'm hungry, and I'm going to break my diet. I'm going to eat some pizza. I ate a slice of pizza, and I got up to leave. And I was like, no, I need another one. And I went and got some more. The pizza, New York City pizza is who's had New York City pizza in here? Is it not the greatest thing in the world? See, there you go. It's good stuff. So, New York City pizza, you can't go wrong.
Now I'm going to have to go to New York. I mean, how do you follow up a question on food, anyway?
And I'm hungry. It's like dinner time.
I know
yeah.
it.
Right.
Let's talk about Byrne.
Okay.
We haven't talked about Byrne. Byrne is your protagonist. He is a main character. And so what did you build his character on? Did you, from your personal experiences, or from people you've met throughout, or one of your students here today?
I know Byrne personally. I based the character of Kevin Bernard Hendricks on my late brother, Kevin Bernard Slocumb. He passed away in 2021 from brain cancer, and I wanted to pay tribute to him and to let everyone know how amazing he was. He was an incredible musician. I asked my family, I was like, can you remember some things that Kevin would do or say? And everyone had the exact same thing to say. He would, if there was a tiny wrinkle in his shirt, he would take it off and pull out an ironing board and iron it. I'm just like, yeah, he did do that. I totally remember that. And just things that he would say and things that he would do. Everything that you see the protagonist burn, that is my brother. He was a musical genius. He played French horn. He was great. His senior recital was flawless. I remember every single note. He used to play oboe for me when I needed an oboe in orchestra when I was teaching in North Carolina. I was like, hey, can you come and play this for me? Yeah, okay. He could compose. He would take a piece of music and arrange it, and it would, phenomenal. I wish I had this much of his talent. And he said, I want to be you when I grow up. And I would just look at him and I would say to him, it kind of sucks, and I apologize for getting a little emotional, but it was like I said to him, he was nonverbal at this point when I was writing this book, and I said to him, if I had this much of your talent, I wouldn't be here right now. I would be somewhere doing incredible things like you should be.
Wow.
So I wanted the world to see my brother through the character of Bird.
Oh, that's a beautiful tribute. It really is. He's a great character. You have to read the book. Okay, so let's talk about your writing process.
Okay.
Did you listen to music? I mean, did you hear the music that Josephine was writing? Did you tell me? Oh, I mean, I was trying to think. Oh, I want to hear this. I want to hear this music.
I'm laughing because people have often said to me after reading this, I had to go Google Frederick Delaney to see if he was real. I looked up these pieces, and then one lady was fronting so hard. She was like, she came up to me and she said, thank you so much for writing this book. I want you to know I listened to every single piece in this book, and it was just wonderful. Every piece of music in this book is made up. It doesn't exist. And I'm like, okay, all right, thank you, lady. But no, I could totally hear the music, and if my brother were around, he could write it. But for me, it would have been too much, because I look at the combinations of things that Josephine would, she would hear sounds in nature and mix it with Chopin, or she would, hear a doorknob turning and mix that with a Tchaikovsky waltz. And, how do you do that? I can't write that. I'm not that talented to be able to write that, but I would love to hear the music. So if anyone has any compositional chops, knock yourself out. We could talk. We come up with a playlist, but sorry, but the music does not exist. And even though that lady says she heard it all, I don't know what she was talking about. But yeah, so sorry about that.
So when you are writing, and when do you listen to music when you're writing?
Not
or do
at
you
all. I can't do it. I cannot listen to music when I write, because I'm constantly analyzing it. I'm like, violas were a little flat. Oh, I need more flute here. The oboe is just a little late there. I can't. When I write, I'm embarrassed. Actually, I'm not embarrassed, because it's what I do. I actually have either the news or reruns of Three's Company on in the background. I do. It's just noise to me, so I gotta have something. And there's a channel, I don't know if you guys know Pluto TV.
Yeah.
Okay, Three's Company is on 24/7, and it's usually on in the background. I was writing a short story the other day, and on my phone, the episode where it was on, and I'm weird like that.
So are you telling me that Kurt Dulaney is based on Barney Fife? Or Don
No.
Knotts?
It just provides something else in my brain. It's not, yeah. But that's kind of how I do it when I write. But yeah.
Well, I admire that. I do. That is just incredible that you have Three's Company.
Three's Company. If it's not Three's Company, it's Alice.
Oh, wow.
Alice was a show too.
Yeah, that's right. So are you working on anything now?
I am.
Can you tell us a little bit about, not just, I know sometimes that just, pops the bubble, but is it going to be better than this one? Because this one's really...
Dude, he's coming out with bangers today. Okay, wow, it's going to be better than this one. Okay, I'll be perfectly honest. When I finished writing Symphony of Secrets, I hated every word of it. I thought I had failed because the other seasoned authors that I've been fortunate enough to meet, I asked, I was like, is it normally this difficult to write book 2? Every one of them said the exact same thing. It's like, it's a sophomore book. It's the hardest one. I thought I failed. I hit that last period. I put it away. I didn't think about it. I didn't read it. I didn't look at nothing for about 4 or 5 months. Nothing. Came time to turn it in for edits. I had to read it again. I read it and I was all, did I write this? Wow. What was a good story? This is a good book. I liked it. And I sent it to a friend of mine. I was like, dude, tell me honestly, what do you think? And like 3 days later, he was like, Brendan, this is good. All right, it's not just me. I think it's good too. So is it going to be better than this? I hope so. I certainly hope so. But my goal is to be the Stephen King of musical thrillers. That's my goal. You think Stephen King, you think horrors, except Stand By Me, right? I want people to go, Brendan Slocumb, musical thriller is going to have music in it. My next book, which I'm going to start on at the end of the month, as soon as I take a vacation, is going to be about a cellist and witness protection.
I like it. I like it.
That's the goal.
I like it. Well, I like your friend. I read it in just one binge, and I don't do that normally. And so I was really compelled.
Oh wow.
To just keep reading, and I really did. I think that it was a lot different than the Violin Conspiracy, and I know that you had written the Violin Conspiracy without the conspiracy element in the first draft.
Right.
So that's what I was wondering, if you didn't have any kind of, that's amazing that you didn't have any kind of rewrite or anything. That's incredible.
Well, I mean, for Violin Conspiracy, I've been carrying those stories around since I was 9 years old. Most of the events that took place in the Violin Conspiracy really happened to me. So it was easy to just write them down. And it was actually quite cathartic because I had been telling my friends and just people that I know, this is what happened. And the response was always the same. You're just exaggerating. No, you misunderstood. No, it wasn't really like that. No. Things like that don't happen. And that was my entire life, hearing that from people, trying to invalidate my experiences. So actually having the opportunity to say, this was real. This really happened to me. And for people to contact me and say, thank you for putting that out there. That same thing happened to me. I know exactly how you feel. And that was totally validating. And it was a lot easier to do because, I've been holding on to that for decades. So, with this story, it was something brand new that I just had to do, and I didn't know how it was going to come across. I love it, so I hope everyone else does too. But can I say one thing about this book cover, if I may? Yep. Thanks, dude. All right, so, ouch. I did not understand the cover to this book. Do you guys get it? I didn't get it. Okay, so I was doing a book talk I was doing a book talk in Boston, and someone in the audience actually explained it to me. And then from that moment on, I was like, genius. Somebody is a lot smarter than I am. So the marketing team came up with this, they were brilliant. And I'm gonna explain it to you right now, and there's gonna be a collective, watch. So the missing opera in the ring cycle it's called the Rings of Olympia. That is the opera cycle. There were 5 operas based on the Olympic rings. And the last opera is the Ring of the Americas. You see green, blue, yellow, and black in this cover, yeah? The missing opera, the name of the missing opera is red. What do you not see here? I know, right? Is that not genius? That's what I said.
So you can tell a book by its cover.
Jokes. That was funny, okay.
I know, you set me up, thank you.
I did. You're welcome.
So I know you're a musician.
Yeah.
And you have a quartet that you play with, and I've invited you again, to our open house again in December. Do you find music helps you in in developing a narrative, do you when you're writing the narrative, did you draw from that part? You know, because music kind of flows and it just and it does tell a story. Mm-hmm. Do you find that helps in your narrative at all?
Not so much in the narrative formation, but in the structure. Being a musician, and I know there are other musicians in here, I like to in my writing, I like to structure everything in terms of a piece of music. You have an overture or an introduction. You have a middle section. You have a finale. And that's how I like to write. You know, the beginning, you're setting everything up. That's what the overture is for. It's going to give you a glimpse into what's coming. That middle section, that's when you get the meat of the piece. You know, you get the major section, the minor section, and then you go back to the major, and then the finale, you're going to end big and strong. And with that overture, you want to grab people. You want to grab their attention. And I've gotten some help with like the opening lines. I've learned from my agent was really influential in helping me with opening lines. I think, if I remember correctly, the opening line to the Violin Conspiracy is, on the worst, most earth-shattering day of Ray McMillan's life, he ordered this for breakfast. And with Symphony of Secrets, it's 16 hours before Frederick Delaney's death. I want to know what's going to happen 16 hours before his death. And so I structure everything like a piece of music. And you know, just with the flow, I understand that. I understand that, you know, there's got to be, you know, that opening overture, that middle section where everything is pretty much laid out, and then that big finale. I get that. That makes sense to me. So when I'm structuring things, that's the format that I like to use.
Great. Okay, so we got a few minutes here left. I would like to open up if anybody here has any questions, I would really love to open it up, and I'll walk up to you and bring you the microphone.
Oh.
Anybody have any questions?
Where did you get your shoes? Oh, I don't remember. I've had them for a minute.
Yes.
So what is the motivation behind this book? Why did you write it?
There are two motivations. Good question. Two motivations, and I'm just going to keep it real. I'm going to keep it real. I had a 2-book deal, so I had to write a second book. That's one part of the motivation. And the second part is I really wanted to give representation. I wanted to pay tribute to my family members. I wanted to represent people living with autism, so that people living with autism could see themselves I said themselves, oh my gosh. Yeah, I went to college. So they could see themselves in a story that was, you know, a positive story. So with the main character of Josephine, I wanted her to be inspirational, if I could say that. I wanted people to see themselves in these characters.
Thank you. I'm also sorry for your loss. I went to LSU, Louisiana. I love it.
Oh, thanks, dude.
Home state for me.
Thank you.
Have anyone else questions?
Oh.
I talk loud, I probably don't need a microphone. So you are an author and a musician. Those are both very intense. How do you balance that in your real life?
Ooh, real life.
You know, not just your book writing life.
It's tough. It's tough. I don't get to play nearly as much as I used to or as I want to. And you know, it's a trade-off. I literally, what is today, Wednesday? I got home on Monday I'd been on the road for 2 solid weeks. You know, I brought just enough underwear, and I've been traveling, and I didn't get to touch my violin. I didn't get to touch a gym, and I'm only t-shirt buff in here because it's really ugly under here because I can't do things that I want to normally do, and playing is one of them, and it's a trade-off. You know, I pick up my fiddle every chance I get. It's sitting on my desk at home, but you know, it's a trade-off, and I make it a point to try to play. But I know that's got to take a back seat right now. And it's hard because, you know, I wouldn't be here were I not playing. You know, were it not for my fiddle, I wouldn't be here playing right now, and I wish I were playing it. But, you know, it is a trade-off. Good question, thank you.
Do you play on your porch?
I don't have a porch. I live in an apartment, and no, my fiddle doesn't, I don't like to take it outside because, you know, they're very temperamental.
Sounds like you live lead a very busy life, and you may not have the time to do this, but it just kind of occurred to me, if you ever thought about composing some musical songs or pieces that would supplement the book. In other words, someone reads your book and there's also a song, there's also a musical piece that may go through the ups and downs of the characters and the stories that you're presenting. And that way you're kind of merging your love of music with the love of writing, and I think it would kind of create a very unique type of experience for a reader who, even in an audiobook, could maybe enjoy some of the musical components. And I don't know how, if you view yourself first as a musician, and so writing music is you're more skilled at that, or whether writing books you're more skilled at that. I'm not quite sure, but it sounds like you would have a talent to do both.
Dude, you're trying to kill me.
So I'm wondering, I mean, even small bits of pieces. Since you were mentioning you kind of crave that time to also play. I'm wondering whether there might be some opportunities, with the marketing and all that in the future, that if this continues to, then maybe it would give you that sort of power and sort of part of the deal to sort of do something. And it just came across as a wild and wacky idea, but I figured I'd go ahead and ask it anyway.
Oh, why not? We're all here. No, dude, are you a musician?
I have no musical talent. I like to write. That's my form of creativity. But I just think out of the box. And,
no, I get it. I get
sort
it.
of like, if you're going to be weird, and I mean, we're all weird in some way, why not just push that envelope even further and sort of like create something that just hasn't been done?
Well,
or maybe it has, but I don't know.
In response to your question's statement, I did do a playlist for the Violin Conspiracy, and that it accompanies the book. All the pieces that are listed in the book are on the playlist, and people have said to me, I've listened to it as I'm reading. This piece is mentioned, and I immediately click play on the Spotify playlist. But in terms of composing new music, I'm a songwriter for my band. And if I were to write music to go along with these pieces, it would take just as long as it would to write the book. If you're going to write a song, you can't put out trash. I don't want to do that. And I doubt that I would have time to dedicate to making it what is worthy of these characters, in my opinion. But a lot of the lyrics, funny story. The lyrics, there are lots of, because it's an opera, lots of lyrics in the book. There are terrible lyrics that Freddie wrote, terrible, and I wrote those. And then there are some fantastic lyrics. I wrote those too. And they come from, that was my outlet into putting my musical stuff within the book. Do I regret making these pieces fictionalized? No, because it really stretches your imagination. It stretches mine. I can hear these pieces in my head and they're incredible. I just can't write them. But for my next book, I'm definitely going to use real pieces of music that have been, and pieces that people know and pieces that people have never heard before. I'm always trying to teach and give people exposure to, I had no idea that this piece existed. In the Violin Conspiracy, the Suite for Violin and Piano by William Grant Still, people still say to me, I had no idea this guy was a composer. I love this piece of music. And I'm like, I'm always trying to give people something new, and in the next book, I will definitely do that. And no, I will not be writing the music. I just don't have, not enough hours in the day for me.
Do we have any other questions?
I got a question. I'm probably loud enough there, everybody can hear me.
What was that?
I got a question. Oh, nice guy, eh?
I like that guy.
Joe's Pizza, New York. Just about on any corner.
Yeah.
I digress. It's the second time I've heard your band referenced, your quartet. Are you local and can we see you perform? I know. I looked at your events page, and man, you're everywhere.
Yeah.
Scottsdale, Arizona, and Illinois, and man, everywhere. I just,
Yeah.
and it looks like you give lessons.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do it, and write.
Yeah.
You probably can't get any sleep.
What's that? No, I'm going to do this as long as God will allow me to. You know,
the references can be seen. Perform.
Okay. Classical stuff, we're doing a recital on June 24th at the Lyceum in Old Town.
Okay.
I'm conducting a few pieces and I'm playing a solo on one of them. Yeah, and which I really need to practice for. And my band, we're kind of pre-COVID, we were playing and gigging around town, but you know, post-COVID, it's just been really difficult to get live music. And one of the band members is in California right now, and the other one is, you know, life took over. We had to work, and you know, I had to write and all of this stuff. So we're in contact, and I'm still writing songs, which are awesome. And you know, at some point we're going to get back together and do a thing. And you know, my band is even referenced in this book. The name of my band is Geppetto's Wood, and we'll do some stuff. And if you really want to hear some of our stuff, we're on Reverb Nation, and it's you look up reverbnation.com/gotwood, GUWUD. I didn't come up with that. Wasn't me, and it's not dirty, it's real.
By the way, early happy birthday in 15 days.
Oh, is it 15 days? Thank you. Thanks for reminding me of that, dude. Thanks. Right, yeah. I'll be 40.
You already got 2 books. It's very impressive, 40 under 40.
I'm not really going to be 40, dude.
Oh.
Yeah.
I did have one last question, I guess. So what is something that you thought you knew before you wrote this book and later on found out to be wrong? Could be any character, it could be about the United States, could be anything.
What did I know that? Oh, wow. That's a good question. I think in terms of character development, when you read the book, you will see that Freddie is a great guy. And at the end of the book, some people, maybe not me, but some people don't think that Freddie's such a great guy. I thought he was great. You know, it's this story to me, the phrase, the road to hell is paved in good intentions, has never been more apparent than in this story. I think it's all about choices that we make. And it's just like, what would have happened if I'd done this instead of this, the choices that we make. And that was one thing that really surprised me, how Freddie turned out at the end, because I didn't see him doing that in the very beginning. So I think that was a good question.
Oh, this is the guy with the audition?
No. He's like the main composer.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, well, it's right about 7. And I know, let's see, Bria, there's...
Yeah, so you'll be able to go to the back if you want to order the book, and Hammurabi Books, he is a local bookstore, they'll ship it to you, so you can order it there. And if you have your book, you can get it signed at the other table. And then we also have book plates that you can sign so you can put it in your book.
Brendan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And congratulations on a great story. And I'm looking forward, I'm a fan of the Musical Mystery Tour. Oh.
That's it. I like it. That's what I'm going to go with. Let me get that tattooed right here.
And thank you everyone for coming, and look for more programs that we have at the Alexandria Library. This is the beginning of and coming up this summer. It's Summer Quest for all the younger clientele, and we also have lots of adult programs that happen throughout. So look for them on our calendar. Pick up a calendar as you're in here in the library, and keep checking the website for even better programs coming up.
Better than
Thank
this
you.
one?
Well, no. I didn't mean better than this one. I meant, better.
All right, yeah, okay.
Maybe I should have said butter programs. Yeah.
No.
Okay. Pizza programs.
Yeah, that's it. That's the way to go. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.